Oh my God, everyone, it's the top 5 of 2018, our top 5 of 2018. That's right, baby. It's time for movie trailer trash. Enjoy.
Hey everybody, this is Movie Trailer Trash, and as Charlie mentioned, we're about to talk about our top 5 movies of 2018. I'm Bethany.
And I'm top 5 Duber.
No, you're Charlie.
It's my full name. My full legal name is Top 5 Duber, and I just go by Charlie, by my friends only.
One of these days, this bad joke that you keep telling at the beginning of every episode will end.
I think that the more I say it, the better it gets.
No.
In my personal opinion.
All right, so before we get going, I just want to announce to everyone that we are now on Spotify. So if that is your preferred platform,
it's my preferred platform.
go there and subscribe to us on Spotify so you can listen to us on your preferred platform.
Yeah.
Also, tell your friends about us. Maybe they only listen to Spotify and they're going to be like, yay, I can finally listen to that awesome podcast you've been telling me about.
You can mix and match. You can have an episode of us, then a few songs, then an episode of us, then a few songs.
Yeah, for like a road trip or something.
For like a sweet road trip.
It'd be fun.
Like a great road trip.
All right. So let's get into this. We've gone through, the two of us separately, and thought of our personal top 5s.
Mm-hmm. For the year of 2018. So that is, stuff that just ended and stuff that'll be for award season. Right? So like the Oscars this year's Oscars are actually last year's movies.
Yeah, I mean, it's some, just to be specific in case people are wondering, 2018 encapsulates everything from January of 2018 until December of 2018. Is that right? Yeah.
I don't remember how years work.
That's how it works.
The Oscars, do those, like, if there's a really great movie in January, do they include that, or is that next year's?
That's next year's, and that's why there aren't any great movies in January. Nobody ever puts out, like, an amazing movie in January.
They do some in February, though.
Yeah, but that's actually really a newer thing.
Phenomenon?
Yeah. Phenomenon. Anyway. All right, so Charlie, how do you want to get into this? You said we're going to start with our number 5 and work our way up.
Yeah, we'll start with number 5 and we'll switch off, and I'm going to go first.
We'll go back and forth, talk about why, and...
Because I'm sure that, at least for most of these, that we'll both like them.
We'll both like them, but I have a feeling that this year we're going to be a lot different. Like last year we had at least 3 of our top 5 that were the same.
Now, should we call out when we have the same ones?
Yes. Okay, so if you call out number 5 and I have it as my number 2 or something, I'll mention it and we'll discuss what we like about it.
All right. Naughty number 5, as they call it. I put a movie that I think is very, very underrated, was only talked about for a little bit of time, and then people kind of forgot about it. One of the best, just straightforward comedies of the last 5 years or so.
Wow.
Game Night.
Really? You put that in your top 5?
It's in my top 5.
Just so you know, that didn't make my top 12. Like, I have 12 on this list, didn't make it. I saw it and was like, yeah, that was fun.
It's okay. So it's one of the things about it is that it's one of those comedies that is, it's very traditional, I guess, in the sense of comedy from my youth. So like it's very, it's kind of Judd Apatow-y. It's kind of,
well, it's a rom-com. I guess that's why you would say it's kind of Judd Apatow-y.
I mean, not really. It's just the two of them. It's Jason
love.
Bateman and Rachel McAdams. They're already married. Then they're going through all this crazy stuff. Yeah, but just
because it can be a romantic comedy, even if you're already married.
No, when you get married, that's when the romance stops.
The romance for them is like getting to a point in their life where they're excited about children and when they're ready for their next phase of their romance.
Yeah, I guess. But
anyway,
still,
that's the Judd Apatow-ness of it.
So basically, if you haven't seen this movie, it is bored couples, essentially, who have a game night every week or so.
I don't know if they're bored.
Oh, my God. Let me get through it. And they...
I disagree with you.
Jason Bateman's brother comes to town, and he's this, like, big shot, whatever.
He's so cool.
And he's just like, we're going to have
always
game night.
Overshadows his brother.
Yeah, we're going to have game night at my place, and he's got this huge house. And basically what happens is... they set up to do this kind of role-playing game where someone gets taken, and then his brother actually gets taken by some,
bad guys,
drug lords or criminals or something like that.
Something he got mixed up in.
And then there's a bunch of madness, and everything's kind of crazy. And it reminds me...
There's twist within twists.
The tone of it kind of reminds me of get him to the Greek a little bit.
Okay. And
just because it's one of those things where just like all of this insane stuff keeps happening one after another.
Yeah.
And I really love that movie.
That's one of your favorites.
It is. And
I can't even remember it.
I think that this movie is one that will be forgotten but shouldn't be, because it's really, really good, and the writing's really good, and I always love Jason Bateman when he's doing comedies.
I like him a lot. I actually love Rachel McAdams as a comedian.
She's really funny.
She's so funny as a comedic actress.
Yeah, very. That's when she's her best.
There's some great, really great parts in this.
The creepy neighbor is really funny in it.
So funny. And here's the thing. I will agree with you that it is very funny. It didn't make a top of list for me at all, but as far as comedies go, we don't get a lot of straight comedies. So it's always a relief when you get a comedy that's just like, this is funny, that's the point of it, and it actually is good. Because a lot of the comedies we get nowadays are kind of, night school-esque.
Well, yeah.
Where it's like, it probably has some funny moments, but overall it's probably a real bad movie.
And it's one of those things that this movie, and I mean, even though Night School probably is as well, is an entirely original story.
Yep.
And we're missing that, as you'll probably see.
We tend to miss that. We've talked about that a lot.
It's one of those things that automatically gets you bumped up like a full letter grade, in my opinion.
Here's the thing that I think, the thing that I forget about this movie, like when you mentioned it, I started thinking of it. The reason this movie is a lot better than people give it credit for is because, yes, it's funny all the way throughout. All of the laughs are great. I can't imagine watching it again and not laughing. Like, it'll still be funny, but it's the twists in it. There's multiple twists.
Yeah, that's the best part of it.
You think you totally know what's going on. In fact, you're kind of shocked that pretty early on the characters figure out what's going on. And you're like, oh, I thought this was going to be like a big, long mystery movie, and it's not.
And it's
not a mystery movie, but then there's a twist, and you're like, oh, wait, what?
It's kind of an interesting cast.
And then you're like, what?
Everyone in it, like, no one is really a superstar in it, which is kind of nice. I mean, Jason Bateman and Rachel McAdams
they're the biggest, probably.
They're probably not, they're not like big, like, comedy A-listers.
Yeah, they're bigger name stars than maybe the rest of them. The guy who plays his brother is a pretty big star, but he's known for dramas.
He's known for that one thing, that one show, that Friday Night Lights
show. Oh, you're
right.
Early Edition.
Early Edition?
That's the show he was in when I was a kid.
Oh, wow. I don't even know what that is.
He gets the newspaper a day in advance, and then he has to go save people. Like, he finds out that somebody dies tomorrow, and then he has to go save them and change the paper.
That's a fun idea.
It's an awesome
show.
That's what I always think of when I see him.
That's an interesting
It was like
idea.
in the 90s.
But anyway, there's that. There's that, the dumb guy from Ingrid Goes West.
Yes, and I love him in this.
Yeah, he's really good in it.
I like him a lot in Ingrid Goes West, too, even though he's unbearable. I like him as an actor.
And then there's a few other people who I've seen before but don't remember their
neighbor,
names.
the creepy neighbor.
Yeah.
What's he from?
I don't know, but I've seen him before. I don't remember his
before.
name. There's a few other
Very
cameos
funny.
and stuff
Oh
that
my
like
God.
pops up like that. But it's so good. It's so fast paced. You have these couples that you kind of get into what their relationship is like, but you don't have to explain their entire backstory of their entire life.
And that's the thing too, is it's definitely it's not an origin story of a romance by any means.
Right. It's
so
just
there's romance in it, but it is very much, I mean, it kind of quickly shows how they met at a trivia night, but really it's just their lives right now and a thing that's happening to them right now.
It's a crazy night, and it's told in a great way.
It's a crazy game night.
And it's written really well.
The neighbor, I thought was going to be a small, funny moment, and actually ended up being way more important and way funnier than I expected. I thought it'd be kind of annoyingly funny, but he was great.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, so I agree. This
so
is
that's
good.
mine. Game night.
This is good because I'm sure that my number 5 is not on your list at all. My number 5 is Love, Simon.
Yeah, Love, Simon's good.
So Love, Simon, I convinced Charlie to go see it with me. I was very excited because it's the first mainstream kind of romance rom-com about a gay couple or a gay romance.
Why were you confused?
Well, because I was going to say teen. It's a teen romance.
About
it's not just
gay
Well, because I said
couple?
couple, but the word couple is not right because it's the romance. They're not like a couple throughout.
Yeah, they probably didn't last very long.
Yeah, they're teenagers, so it's a teenage romance. That's the thing. So it's a mainstream teenage rom-com, coming of age type story where the kid also is coming out. And I think, I just thought that was so cool that this is like a big blockbuster movie with Jennifer Garner in it. it's not a lot
I
of.
don't know how blockbuster
Hey.
Jennifer Garner is anymore.
No, it is a big deal. She is a big deal. She's kind of having a
Big
second
blockbuster movie with Jennifer Garner
No,
and Josh
really.
Duhamel.
Really though, she's having kind of a second resurgence in her own career, and I think she probably took a lot of time off when she had kids. So I think she's fine. She's still a star.
She fine.
But here's the thing.
I mean, if you're getting that Capital One money.
Exactly. But here's the thing. It's a big movie, and for so long, any movie that had a gay romance was kind of subculture. It was its own thing. It was seen as a gay movie, kind of like how a lot of people for a long time and still sometimes do today see things as, oh, well, that's a black comedy. That's a black movie.
Well, yeah, the thing that I always
and
thought
they
about
see
it
him as
was
a subculture. It's not a part of the mainstream.
that it was every movie that usually features or has a main character who's gay the movie is about them being gay.
Yes, and in fairness, this movie is very much about him being gay because it's about his coming out, but it's more of a coming of age, figuring out who you are as a person type story that you get from all sorts of teenage movies.
Yeah.
Edge of 17.
Yeah, well, that's what I was gonna say. Is that it's very
Mean
much
Girls.
it's very much like The Edge of 17, only
Funnier.
you throw in the fact that he's gay.
Yeah.
No, Edge of 17 is very funny.
It's mostly dramatic. She's like, I'm gonna kill myself.
No, but she's not like actually I'm gonna kill myself.
I think she is.
No,
I think you saw that movie differently than I did.
No, it's like she's
telling somebody because she's seeking help.
over the top, teenager that is.
Here's the thing that I want you to know and everyone listening
fun.
is that if anyone, even if they seem like they're being over the top and melodramatic, says they're thinking of killing themselves, please take it very seriously. And I think her teacher does, and I think he does a good job with it. But
Woody Harrelson?
We're getting off track.
That one had more.
Let's go back to Love, Simon. That was a great movie though too, and I feel like this definitely is a similar quality movie to that. So yeah, it has some serious stuff and some upsetting stuff. Somebody outs him, so he doesn't get the opportunity to make that life choice, and that's really upsetting. And but I went into it thinking this will be fun, and I'm just glad that we're here to the point where there's a blockbuster movie like this. But then it was also a great movie. It was so funny. I was laughing so much. The chemistry between all of the main actors, him and his friends, and even him and the person that he ends up liking, the chemistry was so good. And it was so romantic. It was such a kind of stereotypical romantic teen movie where I'm trying to think of another one that's like a teen rom-com like that. Can you think of any? I mean, obviously, Mean Girls comes to mind. I'm trying to think of what's from the 80s? I should have thought of this beforehand, but there's definitely movies I saw. Let's just say She's the Man. Okay, that's not nearly as quality of a movie as this, but
let's just say She's the Man.
That's one I can think of off the top of my head. A lot of Amanda Bynes type movies when I was younger. Amanda Bynes, Olsen Twins, where at the end I felt like my heart fluttered because I was like, it's so romantic. Like I got really swept up in the romance of it, and I got so swept up in the romance of this. Like at the end when he finds his person, I'm just like, yes, you're so excited. They have such great chemistry together, and there's like a kissing moment, a moment where they kiss where it's just like you could imagine fireworks going off. Like it's just such a great romance, and I just love the way they told the story. They did such a good job of kind of addressing a lot of things, the way people treat you when they finally find out you're gay. Like even the ones who loved him and were his friends, there were people who were hurt or upset or felt hurt that he didn't tell them and things like that. And I had experienced that in high school where I felt hurt, like, why didn't you trust me? And it's like, well, it's not just about trusting you. There's a lot that goes into it.
I wouldn't call it a great movie, but I think that's just because I'm not that big of a fan of the genre. And so this movie is does high school rom-com just as good as the best one of them.
As the best one. That's what I was going to say. It is a great high school rom-com.
Yeah, so I don't really care about that type of
but
movie.
You liked Edge of 17.
But this is obviously just as good as all the other ones.
You liked Edge of 17, and you liked you like The Breakfast Club.
Yeah. That one's more of a,
It's less of a rom-com and more of a teenage.
But it's also it's got a classic quality about it that, I can't see it without thinking about its reputation, basically.
Well, anyway, this movie, it did this genre justice. It did it as well as any other great teenage rom-com has ever done it, and it was just way better than I expected. I thought it would be kind of cute, but it was actually legitimately funny, like laugh out loud funny, legitimate, chemistry between the actors. I loved the moments between his father and his mother and him, his sister. It was great. It was a feel-good movie, and afterwards I was just like, I feel great.
Oh, wow. So it was a feel-great movie.
Yeah, and
Okay.
I really hope a lot of people see it, and I hope there are people who maybe are a little bit more closed-minded that see it, and then maybe it opens their mind up a little. And I think at the very least, it'll be a great movie for young people to see for years to come when they just want to see a funny movie.
One of the things that it falls into, which, I mean, this is not on my list for 2018, but it's a really good movie from 2018, is 8th Grade.
Yeah. Not on my list either.
Love, Simon kind of falls into the trap of every other high school movie before 8th Grade, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Where it's just high school in the 80s. And they just replace a few different things,
Yeah,
like
they have
cell
cell
phones
phones.
and blogs or whatever, instead of newspapers and landlines. And so, like, it's basically high school in the 80s.
Yeah, it doesn't have a very modern feel.
Done now. I mean, like, at the end,
there's no
it's
real
like
reason why.
ends at a carnival.
Yeah, like, why are they
people
at a
don't
carnival?
go to carnivals anymore.
Yeah. I mean, it's cute. It's cute as hell.
Yeah,
Meet me on the Ferris wheel? Absolutely.
Meet me at the carnival in 2018. But yeah, so I think that 8th Grade and Bo Burnham basically made a new standard of what high school looks like.
Yeah,
in
I mean, it was
movies
middle school, but yeah.
Yeah.
Teenage years, coming of age years. Yeah. You're
And
right.
so
and I am
there's
interested
that.
to see if that changes the genre at all in the future.
But again, I mean,
also that
every
didn't make
single
our
other
list.
movie from 1980 until now has done that.
Well, and it's because the 1980s had such great classic teenage rom-coms. And so people, when they think of great teenage rom-coms, they think of those movies. So it's hard not to have that influence you while making it.
Mhm.
But I loved it. It was great. The acting was great. Actually, some of the girl who is the new girl in school, the young black actress, I think she's been in a few other things. I think that this movie has launched her career a little bit. And the guy has already been in a bunch of stuff, but he's going to continue to be a big star. So I'm excited about that too, seeing some of these young actors come up and do more stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Loved it.
All right, well, let's move on to 4, and then since I went first on 5, you can go first on 4.
Woo woo. All right. Okay, so number
Woo woo.
4 for me. Ooh, this was so hard. I literally have been going back and forth on this in my brain.
I think we might have the same
on number
4 and
4 and number 3. I doubt it, but we'll see. Okay, I'm going to go with A Quiet Place.
3. Oh, okay. No, I don't have that one on my list at all.
Okay, so this is where I think this year we're going to have fewer movies in common. A Quiet Place blew my mind.
Yeah?
I watched it, but when I saw it was coming out, I was like, uh-oh. John Krasinski's directorial debut, and he's starring himself and his wife in it. Like, is this going to be a bad movie? Because I want it to be good, because I love him, and I love her. And it was fantastic. It was a fantastic movie, done in a way that no other movie has ever been done before. Like, people joked about how they couldn't eat popcorn in the movie, but literally, like, you better not be eating anything. Like,
You best not.
go in there, do not have anything in your lap, no drink, no nothing, because it's
It's a quiet
movie.
place. Oh, you ruined it.
But
you
it's-
ruined it so bad.
No.
It's a quiet place.
But the thing is, it's done to where literally, I mean, yes, there's some talking in it, but very minimal talking in it. And it's whispers when it is happening. So you have this entire movie where you're sitting in a theater where you're used to having loud, booming speakers kind of just attacking your ears.
I heard that
and it's just silent.
the first 2 edits of
effect
it
was
that
incredible.
they did it on mute. That like they didn't include sound in the
Because
first
they wanted to
when
make sure that it
first
would have worked without it. I think that's
editing
awesome.
it.
Well, here's the thing. There is a time where silence can be powerful, and I think especially when you're in a theater, in that dark theater room, you expect these booming sounds to be coming at you, and when it's silent, and then you see these big, wide, expansive scenes of the natural area. I don't know where they are, somewhere in the Midwest, probably, just like the fields and the forest and the beautiful like running river, and you just hear the river. And they have to be quiet. You know, they're walking and you can hear some things around them, like natural sounds, but can't hear their footsteps. They're being very careful. It was just so moving. And the cinematography was incredible.
Right.
Like, I just remember visually being so in awe of the whole thing that was happening, and the story was unfolding, and they could tell the whole story basically with almost no sound, which is amazing. And so it was just such a unique thing. It's kind of like how 8th Grade did something completely new within its genre. This did something completely new within not any movie. It went back to the old days of silent movies, basically. I mean, that's kind of, it's
not in the style of that
no,
at all.
But,
it's just quiet.
No, but
they're like chasing, they're like running back and
this
forth
was made
on and off screen from the thing.
The reason this was made was because the two guys who originally thought up the idea were like, wouldn't it be interesting to do a silent movie again, but make it so that like it's a
Mel
silent
Brooks did
movie
that.
because they have to be silent.
Mel Brooks made a silent movie.
I don't care about that.
Well, he did. I'm just saying he did it.
Anyway, this was amazing. It was so good. John Krasinski really did a great job of directing it. And even though he's not technically the writer, from what it sounds like, it was a very loose idea and he mostly wrote it.
Yeah,
like
he did a lot.
He is the reason it is the way it is. And he did a great job.
I heard that he wrote a second draft of the script entirely.
He was also very nervous about his wife being in it. He didn't want to cast her.
Because he hates her.
He didn't want to cast her because he didn't want it to be awkward. He said,
doesn't think she's a very talented actress.
He said, like, imagine working with your wife and being the one to tell her, I need you to do that differently. Like, you know, he was uncomfortable. He was nervous about it, but he said she was wonderful to work with. She was great. And she said he basically they were like on an airplane, as actors always are, and he like gave
always?
her, they're constantly flying from place to place. He gave her the script, was like, yeah, I'm curious what you think of it. And afterwards she was like crying and she was like, I have to play this part.
Well, she was just a really good choice for it also.
She was great.
Even regardless
exactly, and that's what he said.
being...
He's like, he didn't intend on it, but she was just like, I have to play this part. And he didn't think she'd want to have him direct her. So he was like surprised by that as well. They have their own chemistry. That's great. But the thing that was great about this was them and their children. And I think you'll see a little bit of a theme for me this year. But like the movies that I like are movies that are about relationships, the ones that really stood out to me this year. And there's a scene in this movie where he tells his daughter he loves her. And it is one of the most powerful moments I've ever seen in a movie. And to no words spoken between them, just sign language telling her he loves her. Tears. So many tears. I was just moved by this movie.
I
loved
thought
it.
that this movie was very good, but not as great as everyone says it is. A little bit overrated.
I disagree.
But just because...
there's so many good things. Oh, another thing I wanted to say
okay.
is that it was scary. Sorry, go ahead. Tell me why you think it's overrated.
Just a little bit overrated because of the everything else around them. It basically doesn't exist. So like, there's basically nothing. There's a lot of little things throughout the movie that don't really make sense. As like them wanting to portray it as a real world.
What do you mean?
Just like little stuff, like I don't know, like the little things that they do, like with the flour or sand or whatever it is.
Yeah.
The stuff with the fires where they light the fire at the end of the night to show all of the different people.
Yeah.
But like in that situation, you'd probably get a lot of post-apocalyptic robbing and stuff like that.
No, because you make noise and they kill you. You're not going to have people rioting in the streets and breaking windows.
Well, and also you'd probably want to be as
Maybe
far
right
away from other people as possible.
Exactly. And they're in the Midwest living on a farm. Their nearest neighbor is probably miles away.
But I'm just
it's
saying,
the perfect place to be.
And at the thing that was weird also was in the basement where he's like he has all this stuff written up on
he's trying to figure
whiteboards
out
and things like that are just like, clearly meant to be plot
foreshadowing.
Filling is basically what is for.
It's like he's trying to understand the things, where they come from, how you can avoid them, things like that. He's
just
trying
like sound ?
Yeah, I mean that's a little much, but
and also the fact that she's pregnant.
Yeah, that's awful.
Insane.
That's awful and upsetting, but I don't think it's that crazy. Like people are like, why would you even risk having sex even? And I'm like, because You're
Well,
living in
there's
a horrible,
there's,
dark
there's
place,
plenty of
and you
stuff
want
can do.
comfort. Here's the thing. It seems crazy, but recently, like within this past year, I believe, there was a woman and a man who were rescued from, I don't know, where was it? Syria?
Okay.
Or no. Somewhere in the Middle East, they were rescued. They were prisoners of war, basically. They went over there with their child or their children for vacation. And it's like, don't do that, guys. But they did it. And they, of course, were captured by terrorists and kept in captivity. And they had 2 more children while in captivity. And they were rescued recently.
That seems equally insane.
It is insane. But the thing is that it happens because you're in this terrible, dark world and this
I guess that's the
awful,
thing is that
you're living through hell and you have this comfort of
maybe
being together.
it was presented as,
and then there's this hope of new life.
These 2 people are it was like presented as they're very, smart and resilient and have survived for however long because they have all of these rules and all of this stuff. But then also they just like callously get pregnant. Carelessly. Not callously.
Here's the thing. I think that there's a lot of hope that comes with new life. I think that it is stupid and they shouldn't have done it, but they were hurting and sad for the loss of the child that they did lose, and there's a lot going on.
That's a great scene at the beginning when that kid gets taken.
That's the thing. There's so many good moments in this, like really, and that's the thing too. It's very scary. So, which will come up later when I'm talking about something else, but this movie is very scary. There's a moment where they're in a silo, like with grain, and I am so claustrophobic. And the grain is like, they're sinking into this grain. And I'm like, oh my dear God, they're going to die. Like there's monsters everywhere and you're going to die by grain.
Death by grain.
I was so freaking scared.
That's every Midwesterner's worst nightmare.
I was so freaking scared. And also, it's so scary. Just the quiet sometimes makes it scarier because you're expecting a loud noise. At some point, something's about to pop out. And it was just really scary and good and a great movie about family and love.
All right, so I'm going to move on to my number 4, which is Avengers Infinity War.
All right.
So I was going back and forth between my 4 and 3 a lot.
Yeah. I'm telling you, you're going to hate my list this year.
Well, this is the bro-y part of my list.
Infinity Wars didn't make my list.
Yeah, and actually before that, I was going to say we can move on to my number 4, and you can talk about how you think it's overrated.
No.
Avengers Infinity War on the list because of how big of a event it was.
It was great.
Number 4 on the list because of it's not as good as some of the other Marvel movies that have come before it.
Yeah. True.
But I think that's just because it's a setup for the next one, and we're gonna get the second half of the story pretty soon.
It was an incredible feat.
Right, exactly. Yeah, it was one of those things, and I was talking about this with someone else recently about how it kind of sucks because we've reached the point in the MCU where you have to have seen almost every other movie to know what the hell is going on in these ones.
You have to have seen several.
Like, if this was your first movie, you would have no idea what's happening. I mean, you'd get the gist. This is the bad guy. These are the good guys. But that's pretty much it.
If this is your first movie, you better go to Alamo Drafthouse and see the pre-show.
Right. Yeah. You could do that.
Where they do a wrap-up. They do a recently in the Marvel Universe. Yeah. It was awesome.
Yeah, and it took almost the entire half hour before the movie started.
But it was cool. They did lots of little
that was good.
recaps.
And also, you know what I noticed? My entire list is chronological, so that's interesting.
That's interesting.
But okay, so Infinity War, you finally get to see everyone come together. You finally get to see Thanos, which has been being promised to you for 10 years, basically.
Yeah.
And then
and he did a good job.
And he did a great
job. The actor did a good job.
Josh Brolin was great. And then you finally get to the end, and I mean,
there were some incredible fights.
I'm going to say a spoiler, basically, but it's fine. You get to the end, and for one of the first times in all of superhero movie history, they lose.
Yep.
And that is shocking, and that is good. That out of all of the things that I thought were going to happen, I didn't think that was going to happen.
What did you think was going to happen, though? You knew there was another movie. Like, it didn't surprise me.
Well, I didn't know there was another movie. I knew that.
I thought you told me there was. You said it's Infinity War Part 1 and 2. And then later you said, never mind, they just changed it to Infinity War.
And so that's why I was questioning it.
And so then I thought there was just one movie. And then when, like, right before it came out, people were like, oh, this is one of 2 movies. I'm like, what?
Right.
I was so confused.
I was confused too. And I think that's what they wanted you to be confused, because when they first announced it, it was Infinity War Part 1 and 2. And then they changed it to Infinity Wars or Infinity War.
Just War.
And then
that's the thing.
And so after that happened, I thought that it was going to be like a complete thing, just like all the other Avengers movies. And so, yeah, I was.
But
shocked
you
by
heard
that.
there was going to be a second movie before you went to see it.
I knew that they were filming them simultaneously.
Yeah.
But I didn't know if, Thanos was going to be defeated or not, and something else was going to take its place or whatever. But I thought that was a really gutsy thing to do.
It was great.
I'm sure that they will bring almost everyone back that they killed, because that's
not
how they
everyone, but they will bring people back.
And so that is why it's on my number 4. That's why it's on my top 5 list, is because it's such a big deal.
There's a lot of great things about it.
It's been 10 years of whatever leading up to this moment.
It's in my top 10.
And they didn't screw it
easily,
up, which is impressive. I think the fact that they didn't screw up such a big giant thing deserves top 5.
Yeah, there was several
ranking.
different plot lines going on, and each one was interesting in its own right, and each one had humor and tragedy, and they did a great job. I will say that. I do think it's overrated, because people were like, this is the best one ever of any of the movies. And I'm like, what?
Well, and that's one of those things
just like,
where...
no, like, it's a setup for another movie. Like, you can't say this is better than Thor Ragnarok. Like...
That's one of those things, I think, where you come out of the movie and you're like, that was the best movie of all time.
Yeah, because you're in it. Yeah, I mean, when we came out, I was like breathing hard with excitement.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I was like, oh my God.
That was spicy.
Oh my God. We got to talk about this. There's this and that and
so,
this
yeah.
and that.
So yeah, that's why it's a part of my life that has been in my life for almost half of it.
Marvel Cinematic Universe changed the way that Hollywood views movies and how they can connect.
Right.
It created really the cinematic universe where you don't have to have it be a sequel. It doesn't all have to be one movie after another after another. It can be kind of a tree or a bush of movies.
A bush. A cinematic
with
bush.
lots of different branches.
Why don't they call it a cinematic bush?
I think you know why. All right.
But yeah, we'll see how they do next year or in a few months here. And we'll see.
I'm real excited.
We'll see if they can, keep the standard alive.
I'm real excited, but also nervous. Nervous what they're going to do, because at some point they've got to move on to the next kind of generation. I'm nervous about how they're going to wrap things up.
All right, I'm going to move on to my number 3.
Do it.
My number 3, sticking in with the, bro-y part of my list right now.
Sure.
Mission Impossible Fallout, number 3.
Wow. Did not make my list either, but it is in my top 10.
Mission Impossible Fallout is such a good movie. And also, you know what? I'm not even going to put it in the bro-y part of my list, because
it's great.
It's not. It is absolutely not, and anyone who thinks it is has not seen these movies. Like, basically, the second movie is the only one that is, like, dumb fun.
Yeah.
And it's not even really fun. It's bad.
It's just dumb.
it's bad.
Oh, let's have them leap off of their motorcycles and tackle each other
midair.
That's effective.
But basically every single one of these movies, and we went and did a whole episode on all of them where we ran through every single one.
Which is great, and you guys should absolutely go back and listen to it.
They have very complex, intricate plots that are spy movies that also include ridiculous action stunt sequences because Tom Cruise is insane.
Yeah, like actual stunts.
It's stuff that only these movies can achieve because they have Tom Cruise, and he wants to do that.
Well, and from everything I've heard with interviews and stuff, Tom Cruise has basically peer pressured every other actor into doing their own stunts.
Right. Yeah. Well, yeah, Simon Pegg is what you're talking about.
Yeah,
right?
He's great. He's so funny. He says, like, he's doing this stunt for Ghost Protocol, I believe.
Are you sure? I think it may have been this one.
Oh, no, maybe it was this one.
It was whichever one they were underwater for, yeah.
Yeah. He's doing this stunt. It's Ghost Protocol, I believe. But there's this stunt, or this part of the movie, where they go underwater, and they use a rebreather, which is a type of scuba diving thing where it's a smaller scuba diving set and you're basically rebreathing the same air. It's like a whole thing. It's not easy to learn to use.
Right.
It's a whole process. So he had to go through all this training for this scene. And he said while they were filming it, he was thinking to himself, I don't need to be doing this because his face is covered.
His
He's got the
entire face
rebreather
is
on.
covered the whole time.
His goggles are on. He was like, I could have just easily had somebody else done this. Like, why am I doing this? But he just felt so pressured to do. Everybody does their own stunts. And it's kind of incredible. Like, that's an incredible thing in and of itself as well. The stunts, like they have stunt coordinators who come up with these things and test them. And then they teach him and he does them.
So that's the thing that sets these apart in a big way.
As far as action movies
but
go.
the reason that it's great is because of the really, insane twist-filled.
Yeah, it's not just
every
a dumb
single
action
one.
movie. It's a spy movie. So there's intrigue and mystery and twists throughout.
Every single one of these either has a point where there's a twist or something happens that you're legitimately surprised about, or has something that's like so like intense and stressful. I'm thinking of the third one where he's threatening his wife.
Yeah.
That part of it is so
Horrifying.
insane. And then he dies, and Tom Cruise dies in that one for a little bit.
Yeah. Has to be resuscitated.
And so these are so great. I wish that
There's some great moments.
I have a theory or a plan of what I thought should have happened at the end of this one.
Yeah.
And I guess I could just say it now.
Yeah,
I
why
was going to
not?
save it for something, but I don't know what. I think that what should have happened in this one is that at some point, maybe during the fourth movie, like end of the fourth movie, Tom Cruise secretly, without the audience's knowledge and without the other characters' knowledge, became what they were saying he was in this one, which is he invented the syndicate and has been,
secretly running evil.
it and chasing after it at the same time. And so he controls both sides of the thing. And so he just kind of went insane and has been, doing all of this
Well,
different
because
stuff.
if you're going to be a double agent, chasing after your
Yeah.
bad guys is the best way to make sure they never get caught.
And so I wish that would have actually happened at the end of this Mission Impossible Fallout. The audience finally finds out that he is who they say he is somehow. And Henry Cavill then takes up the mantle and he becomes the next main character of Mission Impossible, and the next movie is Henry Cavill chasing after Tom Cruise.
His character wasn't interesting enough.
See, I think he was. I think he was interesting.
His personality wasn't interesting enough.
Because there were times
He's just
where
kind of a arrogant jerk.
there were times where he was really interesting and kind of funny, and then I think that they would slide stuff in so that you would think he's a jerk. Because like when he's jumping out of the plane,
Yeah, I'm
that
sorry,
seemed
you're
very-
an idiot.
that seemed kind of out of nowhere
You're
a
an
little bit to me.
arrogant jerk.
Like he's like a top agent in the CIA.
I
Like
think
the
the
top
point-
agent in the CIA, and he's just like a dick for no reason and dumb right there.
I think that the point that was making is that this guy is a young, fit, hot shot, but he's not wise. He hasn't got the experience. I mean, I think the point is like,
Well, and that's
you
good
think
because-
you know everything, but you just almost killed yourself because you wanted to prove that you're better than this old timer. Well, I might be old and weak and whatever, but I'm not an idiot.
Well, and I had
I
this
have the
idea,
experience.
and I didn't know this until I was talking about this, but apparently the first Mission Impossible, John Voight,
Yeah.
is apparently, so he's the bad guy in the first Mission Impossible. He turns on them. He's a double agent. And apparently in the
One of
TV
the-
show, the original TV show from Mission Impossible, he's the main character, the good guy.
Yeah, which I didn't even know that it
And
was
so-
a TV show.
And so I
was-
think that not only would have been surprising and shocking, but it also would have been a perfect completed story from that very first one.
Sure, and I don't know where they go from here.
They go to outer space, obviously.
No, but I'm saying I don't know where they go from here as far as
Okay.
storyline. I thought it
I
was
don't know.
great
We'll see.
that they had, it was called Fallout, and it was Tom Cruise 20 years after the first one was made.
Yeah.
20 years later, as you know, your physical ability is not going to be the same, and he's still doing his own stunts, and while he's doing them, a lot of them are him almost screwing it up. And that's part of it, is like Ethan
that's true.
Ethan
In this
doesn't
one.
have it anymore. Like he's older and it's showing. So,
Yeah.
he goes to jump and he barely makes it across the building. Like he almost hurts himself. He starts to fall off the thing that's hanging from the helicopter. And by the way, they thought he might have like legitimately
Died on that.
yeah, they were like terrified because he fell. He was not supposed to do that.
So that's what I think that they should have taken more of a chance.
But it was great. It was a good movie, and it definitely deserves to be on someone's top 5.
And I think that you'll see in my next couple movies that I give people who take a chance better grades.
I believe in that. So that was your 3. I'm going to go into my 3.
What?
Bird Box.
Bird Box. Oh my God.
Listen.
Top 3.
Listen.
Bird Box.
This is why I was going back and forth. A Quiet Place might be better than Bird Box.
So you would
It's
rather
been a long time since
you
I've
would
seen
rather watch Bird Box than Mission Impossible Fallout, Avengers Infinity War, and Game Night.
Yes. Now here's the thing.
Insane.
I'm gonna tell you about it, okay? There's definitely a theme this year. My top 5 are so out of character for me. I clearly am in a place in my life where I want to see things that make me think and make me reflect. So I absolutely loved Infinity War and Mission Impossible Fallout. Mission Impossible Fallout's on my list, so is Infinity War, but I came out of those theaters like, oh my God, that was amazing. There was this part and then that part. And what about that time he did this? And that's fun. But I'm at a point in my life where the movies that I put on my top 5 list are the ones where the next morning I wake up and I'm just like, oh God, that was so interesting. Because I didn't think about it, but it's kind of like this and that. Like it's just this, my brain is just working this puzzle and still thinking about this world they created. And I was in love with this movie. I saw it, and there's so much that's wrong with it too. Like there's a lot of kind of half-assed side characters that could have been better that they kind of just threw in there. There's a lot of little cliches throughout that you and I have talked about before when we were just discussing the movie. But Sandra Bullock, the best performance of the year.
I think that
she was incredible.
Well, I disagree with that, but
maybe not.
Also, I think
great.
that movie. So I think I like it more than like most critics.
Sure.
So like I would give it like a B, like a 80.
Yes. Sure. I would
you
give
like it more than
I could
me.
see giving it an 80. That seems fair to me, but I still love it.
But what I was saying, I said this to someone, is that what I like about it is that compared to, because people have been comparing it to Quiet Place a lot.
Yeah.
Compared to Quiet Place, I like
Understandably.
how everyone is more realistically a dick throughout the entire thing. Like everyone is a jerk, except for that one guy, except for Tom. Everyone is a jerk the entire time.
Well, in fairness, though, A Quiet Place is just one family. You don't see anybody else.
Yeah.
So that's a little different. But I do think that the reason, so people keep comparing them, and people like to be like, oh, what? So now we had a movie where you couldn't talk. Now we have a movie where you can't see. And I'm like, guys, calm down. This is based on a book from 2015 that came out before A Quiet Place was ever written. So calm down.
Well, and also some of the best things are copies of
yeah,
other stuff
and also I'm
done
like,
better.
This isn't the first time in the world that people have thought, would it be interesting if you couldn't see, or if you couldn't hear, or if you couldn't speak? Like those things have been done before in books and all sorts of stuff. So like, calm down. Of course, it's going to be something that we think of as humans. What if we couldn't do this?
Right.
But
also with a monster.
I had heard about the book before. Some people from a book club at my work had talked about it. Some of them liked it. It got mixed reviews. And I remember just thinking, like, I just can't fathom how you can't look at a monster. Like how, I didn't understand the concept. But once I saw it, I was like, oh, that's some creepy shiz.
Creepy shiz.
But like Sandra Bullock, one of the best performances of the year. Because I agree. You're right. There's more to say about that. But she was incredible. And to me, both A Quiet Place and Bird Box.
Blind Box.
Both of those movies are about family. And so they're these scary movies that really have nothing to do with the scary thing that's happening. It has everything to do with the relationship between a parent and their children. And how do you as a parent do everything you can for your children? And in one, actually in both of them, by trying to protect your children in a way, you're pushing them away. So like in A Quiet Place, when he tells his daughter he loves her, earlier in the movie, his son's like, she doesn't think you like her. And it's like, how can you really go about showing them love? And you can't
you
have
could
fun.
see why people are comparing it, though, because that basically that exact same line is in Bird Box.
Yeah, she's scared of you. But here's the thing. It's different reasons. Like in that, he just kind of is distant, and he's distant because he's hurting because he lost a child. Whereas in this one, she's constantly yelling at them. But she doesn't have to be quiet, and you would. Because try and imagine explaining to a 4-year-old, 5-year-old, you have to be blindfolded and not take this off for days. There's going to be days long where I will not allow you to take this blindfold off. Kids do not listen. They don't understand that their life is in danger. The only way they're going to understand is if you scare them. You're yelling at them so much that they're scared of you. They don't understand to be scared of the monsters, really, but they're scared of you, and they don't want to see what happens if they take their blindfold off because you're going to whoop them.
I have a question about that movie, about the logistics of the filming? No, of the monster.
Oh, of the monster. Just like the concept.
Do you just have to see it once? So, like, if you were to look at it and see it, if someone covered your eyes, would that make
that's
it
one
so
thing.
that
So a lot of people are upset that they didn't show the monster, which I think is dumb, and you're missing the point because it's not about the monster. But I did think about that when I was watching the movie, when Olympia sees the monster and she's like, hey, can I hold your baby for a second? Please let me hold your baby. She's like yelling at her, trying to convince her. I'm like, at that moment, I feel like cover her eyes, like try. But I think it's too late. I think it's far too late. They're going to do whatever they can. They're going to ignore whatever you say. But that is another complaint I saw.
I'm a fan of not explaining things.
Me too.
I like that.
Well, because it's from the point of view of the people who are in it. Sandra Bullock doesn't know how it works. I mean, how can you? You can't study it. They tried studying it, and it didn't work through the cameras and stuff.
Right.
So we know as little as she knows, and I like that. However, one complaint I did see was that basically they never found a way to deal with the monsters other than to hide away for their entire lives. And so I could see that being a problem. Like, I would have liked to see them find ways to overcome that, but that's not what it was about. It's just not. It was about family.
That doesn't happen all the time.
Yeah, exactly. Sometimes awful things happen and you have to learn to live with those awful things. Yeah. And I thought there's the scene where she's talking to her daughter and just apologizing.
Like, and in the near future when the super volcano goes off, we're just going to have to learn to live with it. You can't beat the super volcano.
You're right. But anyway, so for me, I was going back and forth on those two movies because they're both amazing, and it's not really fair because Bird Box is super fresh in my mind, whereas A Quiet Place I saw a year ago, like a whole year ago. So it's been a long time, but both of those movies were amazing. They're neck and neck for me, but I do think overall A Quiet Place is probably a better movie. It was made better. It had less cliches and stuff, but I can't stop thinking about it. I woke up the next day and I was just like, thinking about what I would do if I was Mallory and thinking about how great of a mother she was. And people like to think she was mean, but she was such a great mother. She did so much for them.
All right. Let's go on to your number 2.
Okay. My number 2 is Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse.
Okay. Hold on. What is your number 1?
Because Spider-Man's your number 1?
Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse is my number 1 of 2018.
What is your number 2?
Searching's
my number 1. All
right, there we go. We got it back to back. All right, so let's talk about Searching first.
Okay, that's fine. I'm fine with that. But I will tell you, it's absolutely my number 1. It wasn't even a question. The other movies, all the other movies, including movies that didn't even make my top 5, I struggled with them. Searching, I knew from the get-go was going to be my number 1.
Yeah, I knew it was going to be 1 or 2.
Yeah, and Spider-Man, obviously, like, I almost forgot about that one. Then I was looking at movies for the year, and I was like, oh, yeah. Of course. So it's incredible.
So Searching, what I said before is movies that take a chance are almost always better than movies that don't.
Yeah.
If they're both decent.
Original stories, good, like taking a chance on interesting actors who don't always get to be lead roles.
This is one of those movies that, there's so much of it that you could, like when you first hear about it, that you could just be like gimmick. To a big degree, because there's only like 2 or 3 actors in the whole thing.
Yep.
The entire thing is shot from the point of view of a computer screen. And for those reasons alone, you could be like, oh, that sounds gimmicky.
Oh, it's just some silly gimmick.
But
it's such
when
a
you
good
actually
story.
watch it, all of those things make the story better.
It was great. They did such an amazing job. if somebody was to tell me, hey, I want to make this movie and we're going to show everything on a computer screen, I'd be like, there's no way you're going to do that without it being bad.
Right.
Like, how are you going to tell the whole story? And there's going to be at least 1 or 2 points where it seems annoying that it's on the screen.
And I think that one of the main
happen.
reasons that it worked is because it's still from his perspective. It's not from the camera of the computer screen. It's still from his perspective. It's only showing the screen.
And it's not a found footage movie, which the writer of the movie did point out to us, because we were debating that. I can't remember what he called it though. He told us what it was.
Yeah, I don't remember either.
But it is like it's a first person point of view, but seen through his eyes, but the screen. So good. Okay, so I don't want to give away spoilers for this one.
Yeah, I don't either.
But just in general, some of the things I loved about it, John Cho was the lead actor, and Deborah Messing, lead actress. Both of them amazing performances.
Yeah, they should both get nominated for something.
So, yeah, like as far as me saying Sandra Bullock best performance of the year, both of those people were incredible as well in their own right. So, I mean, yeah, I still think Sandra Bullock was one of the best performances of the year. But they were amazing. John Cho, people just think of him as Harold and Kumar.
Yeah.
You go to White Castle. Or Sulu, which is a little bit more of a serious role, but still, like, he plays a father who loses his daughter in this one. And it's incredible. Like the stress he's trying to deal with and the pain he's dealing with and the fear. And he's so good at showing this range of emotion and just this father doing whatever he can to save his child. So obviously you can see there's a theme in mind.
And this is another one in a completely different way. But it's another one, like I was saying with Game Night, and that you keep having all of this stuff unwind and happen, and you go down these paths and you come back and then you go down another one and then you go back to the other one. And it's like, it's very complex. There's a lot of twists and turns, and it's one of, if not the best movie of the year.
It was so good. Okay. And there's one person I know who has seen the movie who didn't like it that much. And they said I thought it was so predictable. And in my head, I'm just like,
you're insane.
I don't believe you. Or you tried so hard to predict it that you ruined it for yourself. Like you didn't allow yourself to go on the journey with the character. But also, I don't believe you. I think you want me to think you were smart enough to predict it because you're full of it.
Well, and I will say this.
And even if I did predict it, I still would have been amazed. It's still done so well.
Even if you predict one part of it, there's no way you predicted the other part of it.
There's multiple things
and
happening.
That's what I'm going to say about that.
There's multiple things happening, and it doesn't matter though, because honestly, there are you and I talked about like, oh, I kind of thought this was going to happen, and I would have been good with that. Like that would have been interesting. There's so many different ways they could have told this story.
Yeah.
But the acting, the characters themselves, like, oh, Deborah Messing, I'm just like, she needs to be nominated for Best Supporting Actress at least.
I agree.
She was so good. And if this doesn't get her more movie roles, I don't know what could, because she was fantastic. John Cho was fantastic. And also another thing, kind of like me, excited about the, gay lead character in Love, Simon. I was very excited about a lead Asian character in this, and it not being. Now, we had Crazy Rich Asians this year, so it was a great year for Asian actors in general and kind of getting more exposure. And that was great. That was a fine movie, but this was a movie where it wasn't about him being Asian. It was just a movie about a father who loses his daughter, and boy, was it emotional. I was just crying during this scene where they're going through the woods shouting his daughter's name, and he's talking to the cameras saying, if anyone has time to come out, the more people that come out, the quicker the search is. And I was just crying because we've all seen that. Like, who has not seen some, news report about somebody who's missing and people looking for them? And so they're showing this, and I just felt like I knew these people, and God, it was done so well.
Yeah, those same guys, I think, have a movie coming out. I don't know if there's technically a release date, but there's a movie coming out. I think that it's with Sarah Paulson.
Really?
I'm not positive,
she's having a heyday right now.
But I think it might be.
She's doing good.
She was in Bird Box.
She was in Bird Box. She was in Ocean's 8, and she's in Glass.
Yeah, she's going to be in Glass. Okay.
There's not much to say because we don't want to spoil it.
You don't want to ruin it.
But here's the thing. It is a smaller movie, whereas Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, everyone probably has already planned on seeing it if they haven't already. But let's just say this. Go see Searching.
Yeah.
I'm sure you can rent it by now.
Yeah,
rent it. It's worth $7 easy.
Into the Spider-Verse.
Yeah, let's talk about this one because I love this one too.
So this movie was so good. It's technically a kids movie.
Yeah,
it's an animated movie, and
that it made this top of our list, but of course it did.
And Spider-Man has always been my favorite superhero. And while I also love,
honestly, don't know if I've ever had a favorite.
The Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies with Tobey Maguire, and I love the new Spider-Man is also very good.
I enjoy Amazing
with,
Spider-Man
Tom
1
Holland.
and 2.
Yeah, I even like those as well.
I think that people hate them way too much.
I agree. But all of that
we
said,
enjoy Spider-Man. All the Spider-Man.
This movie, I think, is by far the best Spider-Man movie.
I've heard others say that as well, and I don't think it's I don't think it's that brave of a thing to say.
It's not.
Like, it's not like people are going to get that angry.
This is so good. And it's one of those things where...
It's funny, too.
It's really funny. It is...
the story is interesting.
Yeah, you're able
There's a real good plot.
They take a risk by just introducing this weird universe where, like, a
multiverse.
Basically a multiverse, multiple dimensions, and all of these different... ways that Spider-Man happened, and they all come into one. And it's one of those things where if you were explaining this to someone, like you wanted to make a movie and you wanted to make a kids movie, and you're explaining all these different dimensional things, and the fact that the Spider-Man from their dimension dies earlier on in the movie, then you'd be like, this is no kid is going to understand this, want to see it, and will be afraid of it. It's one of those things where just someone had to come, like, bust forward and go through with this movie.
This is the movie you want to make.
Not only did they take a risk there, they also took a risk in the animation style.
It was so good.
Which is, I've never seen anything like it before
in
my life. It was like they would,
It was comic book-esque.
Yeah, they did all this stuff where they added these, like, graphics in with the real world. They did they blurred the background in a really interesting way. They
his face, it had, like, dots kind of.
Yeah, they would
like
include
the dots,
that every
like
once
the
in a
ink
while.
dots in some parts.
Yeah. And then sometimes when they were trying to get, like, a point across when they were, like, thinking something, they would show the like word bubbles a little bit.
And I thought that would get annoying, but it didn't. Because early on, I thought they were going to do it constantly.
They didn't do it every time.
It was just to make certain points, and it was so good.
And it made the action so awesome too. Like in the trailer, when you see him when he's running through the traffic, and like whenever he hits the car, it like flashes into like comic book mode basically.
Yeah.
And they do a bunch of stuff like that, and it's so good. And so they took that risk. They took the risk of the story, which is insane.
Great.
They took the risk of the animation, which is great. They kind of took a risk a little bit with the music, but the way that
music
they did
was
it,
great too.
Well, first of all, it was great, but it also made sense with the character.
Yeah, it was basically his music,
which is another risk. Miles Morales is the main character.
A young
in this
teenage,
movie.
half black, half Mexican boy.
Yeah, I don't know if he's Mexican, but he's half
Latino. You're right. He might be Latino. He might be something else.
But it's basically his music. They took that risk of it being Miles Morales instead of Peter Parker.
And by the way, his music wasn't like my kind of music. Like sometimes you see a movie like Baby Driver and you love all the music in it.
Yeah.
Or let's say Guardians of the Galaxy. You're like, that music's fun. It wasn't like music that I'm going to go then download, but it was so good for the movie. Like it was like hip hop music that I didn't know, that was maybe a little slower than my style, but it worked so well for the movie.
And then they had...
and it helped you to understand his character.
This old busted Peter Parker from another dimension who got divorced and was fat. And...
was a loser, basically.
Yeah,
That's a risk, too. Like, why would you have Spider-Man be a loser? But he was. He was pathetic.
And there was so much of it that was so good. That was like...
There's character development throughout.
And
great
it was kind
relationships.
of... I've been saying this a little bit to various people, but the Peter Parker at the very beginning of the movie that is in Miles Morales' universe.
Yep.
That is like... the great,
perfect Spider-Man,
great American whatever.
He's Spider-Man the way Spider-Man should be. Basically.
He's perfect, and he always saves the day.
He's smart.
And he's
funny. Kind. He's funny.
And
he's built.
He's married to Mary Jane, and they have all their whatever. And he dies earlier on, and I think that's a really. I think it's it symbolizes what this movie is doing, which is it's taking 1960s Spider-Man, perfect, great American, whatever, and introducing real human people.
Yeah, because nobody's that perfect.
That are Spider-Man.
Like, as much as the guy is pathetic, the Peter Parker from the other world, he grows throughout it. There's character development, but you can't have character development if you're already perfect. Where is there to go? And yeah, so what's interesting about this movie is a couple of my friends at work were telling another woman that she should see it with her children. She has teenage children. And she said, oh, well, they probably won't want to see it if it's a kid's movie. And we're like, no, listen. They will love it. Because, and I was saying, no, you don't understand. Like, the story is not a kid's story. Like, it's a really good, interesting story. Yeah. And I was going on about the plot. I was like, it's so cool. And the way that the characters develop and the way that the universes come together. I was trying to explain it. And while I'm doing this, the graphic designer friend of mine was like, visually, it is the most amazing thing I've ever seen. And I was like, that's so funny because you talk about how visual it was. And it was visually incredible, but that's not what comes to mind for me because I'm just going on about the story. But the fact that somebody who, like myself, who writes for a living, somebody like yourself who does design for a living, that we can look at it and both of us are amazed at our own specific focuses. You know, like they did wonderful.
It's one of those things where they just got it perfect in a way that you didn't know that they could
You didn't know you needed this until it was made.
Yeah.
And now you're like... Well, I like the new guy, Tom Holland, that's playing Spider-Man, but at this point it's kind of like, well, is there really a point in doing another Spider-Man movie, though?
Everyone wanted...
do we need that?
Or not everyone, I guess, but a lot of people wanted to see Miles Morales in one of the movies. And I think that giving him this is better because... this is going to be his own thing for a while. Like, I imagine that they're going to make a lot more of these.
Because he's a cartoon, you don't need to worry about a young teenage actor growing up too fast. Because that's the thing, too. Like, honestly, Tobey Maguire looked like he was 30 years old when he played Spider-Man.
He was.
I don't know if he was or not.
By the last one, he was. He was around there.
And, what's his name?
Andrew Garfield.
Andrew Garfield also looked too old, even though he was scrawny. It's like, yeah, he's scrawny, but he's clearly an adult. And finally, we have Tom Holland, but Tom Holland's 21 years old. He's gonna start growing up too. Like, you know, the cartoon universe allows you to have them be whatever age you need forever.
Well, and also something that I thought was kind of funny was they had 3 different Peter Parkers, I think.
Yeah.
The perfect one was Chris Pine. The schlub one was Jake Johnson.
Yeah.
And the other one was Oscar Isaac, I think. He's at the very end.
Oh, at the very end. Yeah.
I mean, he's not technically a Peter Parker, but
yeah, his name's something else.
He's supposed to sound like them. And so I think it was really funny to show how many basically Peter Parker types there are in Hollywood right now. So like you could fill an entire cast of a whole bunch of Peter Parkers because that's like the common thing. And then you have the main characters in Miles Morales, Gwen Stacy.
Do you know who plays those people?
Gwen Stacy is Haley Steinfeld, I think. And Miles Morales, I don't remember his name. I'll
look it up while you're talking about.
And then you have Spider-Ham, which is, it's comic relief, but it's funny. I thought it was going to be dumb because he's basically like a Looney Tune. And I thought it was going to be silly, but that's John Mulaney. And there's never been a more perfect voice cast choice for that.
It was great.
And then you have Nicolas Cage as the Spider-Man
which I
Noir.
did not know it was him throughout, but once I found out, I'm like, oh my God.
And
okay, so I found out who it is. It's Shamek Moore.
Okay.
And I'm going to see if I've seen him in anything else. Do you recognize his face? It's black actor. I don't know what else he's been in.
And then also another thing with the visuals is that I thought it was a really cool, really big chance to take where they had the anime character and they animated her like anime within this non-anime world, and it was great.
This guy's from Dope.
Oh, cool.
He's the guy from
All
Dope.
Right. Yeah, he's great.
Which is a great movie. So yeah.
Yeah, that's a great choice. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, that was a good choice. So anyway, it was a great movie. Had a bunch of like a star-studded cast, a wonderful script, visuals, everything.
There's a couple of really good villains that you aren't expecting in this that are great. One of them is legitimately scary, like
Which?
Prowler.
Oh yeah.
When he
Also,
is
one of
coming
them
at
is
you,
legitimately surprising.
yeah, yeah.
Like,
I think both of them are. But like when he is coming after Miles Morales, it's legitimately terrifying. The music that they chose with that is just perfect.
Oh, I will say this: I was definitely scared at one point where I was thinking to myself, I don't know if my niece is gonna be okay, because I was like, I like jumped out of my skin at one point. I think I might have even gone like like that.
Yeah.
And look, I'm one that gets scared.
I'm one that gets scared.
I'm not like trying to be cool or anything. I get scared easily, but I still was like, holy crap, my 5-year-old niece is in here, like, and I'm terrified right now. Maybe because she's younger, she's less scared, because sometimes there's a level of
she was more scared
understanding
of
you
the
need
spider.
to be scared. Yeah. He was also in the Get Down from 2016, 2017.
Never
That's
saw
the
any of
show
those.
that people really like. So, but he's a young up and coming actor though. Like, he's not been in a lot of stuff, so that's cool. He was great as the character.
So there you go. Go out and see those, or not go out and see, but see
Go
Spider-Man,
see- yeah.
Into the Spider-Verse, see Searching. Those are the two main ones that you need to see.
Obviously, they made top lists for Charlie and I.
Right.
So 2 of ours overlap this year. I will say there's a theme throughout mine. So at first I was thinking there's a theme because I have like Searching, Bird Box, A Quiet Place. So all of those are kind of scary movies, which is interesting because I'm usually not into that. And all of them are about parenthood.
You say that you're not into that, but
I know.
every time you see a scary
know.
movie, you love it.
I know, but that's because I'm so selective about it. If I saw all the scary movies that were out there, I'd continue to hate them.
Yeah, sure.
But the point is they're all about parenthood. But then I realized literally every movie in here has significant parent-children relationships in it. So Love, Simon, he has to come out to his parents, which is a really scary moment.
You mean Josh Duhamel?
And Josh Duhamel has been kind of had some kind of homophobic statements before, and he had to have a moment with them where he basically apologized for being less of a father than he should have been. And it was really emotional, and his mother was great in it. Spider-Man, Miles Morales is having kind of issues with his father. They're not very close. His father is sending him away to this private school where it's basically a boarding school during the week and you see your parents on the weekends. So he's having his own little parental issues, and his father does this thing where he drops him off at school and he like says love you, and the kid just keeps walking, and he like uses his police speaker to be like, you've got to say I love you too, and he like embarrasses him in front of everyone.
Well, and that's another
There's definitely
thing.
like some good themes throughout, but it's just interesting that all of my favorites have really important parent and children relationships throughout.
That's another thing that's been missing from Spider-Man just forever, basically, because you've had the Aunt May thing for so long, where it's just him basically taking care of his elderly aunt.
Yeah, really,
and,
it really is. So now he has a parental
now
figure.
he has parents who he could react off of, and he doesn't. They don't really have like problems. They just have regular teenage problems.
Yeah, it's more like they're not very close, and he kind of feels like his dad is too strict. He really respects his uncle, which is common, because uncles and aunts get to be fun and your parents get to punish you.
The biggest problem is that he is very, very smart, and they want him to go to a better school, and he doesn't want to leave his neighborhood.
Yeah, he just wants to stay with his friends. That seems normal.
Yeah.
But yeah, so okay. Obviously, I think our lists are both great. You hit a couple. You hit a couple that I didn't have on my list, but were very high up there for me. One honorable mention I wanted to say was Black Klansman and Black Panther.
Yeah,
those were. I almost replaced Love, Simon with both of those because they were great. They're just both great in their own right. Black Klansman, I was thinking about it recently because when I saw it, when I left the theater, I said, that's the best movie all year. I said I liked it better than every other movie I'd seen.
Also,
thinking back on it later, I disagreed, but it was very good.
Incredibles 2 is another good one.
Yeah, that one didn't make my list of top 10, but
an underrated one, I thought, Isle of Dogs from earlier this year.
Won't You Be My Neighbor?
Yeah.
That made my list of top 10. I already said, you said Infinity War already. And Mission Impossible Fallout were on my list. And then Deadpool 2 for me. I really love that movie. I think it's underrated. But yeah, so I mean, look, this year has been great. There's been a ton of great movies. I told Charlie, if it wasn't for A Quiet Place, Bird Box, and Searching coming out, then I probably would have had, Black Klansman, Black Panther, Infinity Wars, and maybe even Deadpool in my top 5. So it's kind of funny that it's very stereotypical for Charlie and I to have superhero movies and action movies and funny movies in our tops. But this year, like I said, I mean, every single year of your life, you're going through your own life stuff. Your life is changing and whatnot. And for whatever reason, these movies resonated with me this year. I really cared a lot about movies that showed great relationships and character development and interesting, unique stories. So yes, there were still great superhero movies this year. And yes, one of them made my top 2. But even that one was not the stereotypical one,
right.
You know?
Yeah, and I hope they keep making them.
I do too. I know they will. They've made so much money off it already.
You can follow us on Twitter at MTT Podcast. You can go to our website, mttpodcast.com. You can go to our Facebook. You can look that up. We are on Spotify now, as we mentioned earlier in the show. That is fun for us because I like Spotify.
Yeah, put it out there. People like to listen in different spots.
And and also you can go to our Instagram at Movie Trailer Trash. There's a lot of places you can go to see us.
Look, the point is, look us up. Find us out there in the world. And if you have time to rate and review us on iTunes, it makes a huge difference. We're still lacking in those rates and reviews. So we know you're out there listening. If you could take the time, that would mean a ton to us. And this month, we're starting our trivia night up again in Kansas City. Yeah. You'll find out more about that on our Facebook.
And our next episode as well.
Yeah.
And as always, follow our friends Entertainment Buffet at Entertainment Buffet and subscribe to their YouTube channel as well.
Thanks for listening.
My top 5 is better.
No.
Bye.
What?